They say you don't become a witch. That it's just one day you wake up and realize that's what you've always been. The one that doesn't always fit in. The one that likes the woods, the sun and sky, cats, owls, and the moon. The one who stays up late reading books, playing role-playing games, and learning the names of the stars. The one that likes to wear black eyeliner, capes. And then you realize, oh, that's what I am. I'm a witch.
Hey, welcome to Walking the Witch's Web Seekers class with Belladonna and Starr. I am Lady Belladonna, and this is our lovely lady Lola Starr. Welcome, Lola. So good to see you again.
Right? We took like a little hiatus there for the first few weeks of January.
Oh my goodness, we sure did. It's winter and I live in the mountains, and we had electricity failure. We got snowed in. We got COVID in December. We got the flu in January. It has been a wonderful, wonderful month of challenges. Went to Paris, so we missed then, and then it just kept on happening. So Lola, I'm glad that you're well.
Yeah, me too. We had the same stuff. We were sick with COVID, and then that went to chest congestion and fevers, and then it went to sinus infection. We had an Arctic freeze over here. We just but we're here.
It's whatever the world, right? But we're here now, and it is so good to see you again. Lola and I are so happy to be back with you.
Yes.
And sharing about the Seekers class, the basic things about Wicca. So what we do here is we have this awesome little oracle deck that has 52 cards in it, and it's pretty much a card for every week of the year, and we go through a different card every week, and it helps you learn the basis of Wicca. But it's also, when you get through, you have a divination deck and you understand all of the different cards in them, so it's fun. Today's card is the Ordains. So the Ordains is something that we learn about in Wicca.
Yeah,
it is. People are like, oh, what does that mean? It basically means Wiccan law.
Yeah, and people try to ask me, they're like, what is Wiccan law? What are the Ordains? Like, there's laws in Wicca, and it's kind of hard to explain them. So when someone who has no idea what the Wiccan law means, what that is, what is the Cliff Notes answer you give them?
Well, I just tell them the first law. The laws were given to us to bring forth form and order and balance to the universe. Mm-hmm. The laws were given, the Ordains were given to our elders and written down to help keep balance between the planes, because we are messing around in the tween space, and it can cause imbalance, and imbalance causes chaos and problems and stuff.
Yes, like that. It does.
Wiccans are the keepers of the balance. So it is our responsibility to keep the balance. Therefore, we must know the Ordains so that we can keep the balance.
So a lot of people call it ethics. Would you call it Wiccan ethics? An ethical?
Not really.
Because I don't either. But ethics is a tricky word for me in Wicca.
Yeah, ethics is different. I mean, ethics is more about, is it morally appropriate for me to do this or not? Mm-hmm. Like my ethics will keep me from misappropriating funds, but the Wiccan law doesn't talk about misappropriation of funds. Wiccan law is about how magic works and how the laws work between magical folk in order for us to not step on each other's toes and stuff like that. I think it's a lot less about ethics and more about things like that aren't so clear cut, such as you're supposed to wear a robe to circle. So if you don't wear a robe, you can't come into circle. No, wicked law says you do not stop somebody from coming into circle due to a lack of a robe. So this helps people who are like, it says you got to wear a robe and I don't have a robe. So are they going to not let me go? It helps with those kinds of not so clear cut, obvious things. What's the right thing here? You know, wear a robe, go to circle.
Yeah.
The wicked law tells us you don't kick somebody out because they don't have a robe, which I think ethically is correct. But some people could argue that Wicca is a privilege. And if you don't have a robe and you didn't make room in your budget to get a robe, then you don't get the privilege of going to circle. And so I'm really glad that we have the laws because it helps us sort out those kinds of gray areas that are a judgment call.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's broken up in 3 sections. I know it's for the seekers.
It's for seekers, and it's for initiates, and then it's for leaders.
Yeah. So you do your seekers section, which is those who are like what we are talking to people here about. You're interested in it. You're seeking the knowledge of Wicca. And then your initiates are the ones that are like, okay, they've made a commitment. So now what do we do? It kind of moves up, and then it goes to the leaders, and those are all the laws that helps run a coven, helps your high priest and high priestess. So I want to tell you one thing. So I took Wiccan law at the seminary, and it was my least favorite topic. This was back then.
Was Alfred your teacher?
Well, yeah. I wasn't gonna say because
Well, I know that his teaching style, and I had a lot of students tell me that I know what Wiccan law isn't, but I don't know what it is because that particular teacher liked to go down rabbit holes and discuss a bunch of different things, and people didn't get a real good understanding of what Wiccan law is.
Yeah,
and so that was a problem. A good school is only as good as its teachers. And when you find that someone's not particularly talented at teaching a particular subject, I mean, it's not that Alfred's not a good teacher. Alfred's a great teacher.
He's a great teacher, yeah. But there's, it takes it. And then I took with Lady Mary Malinsky, and I started to kind of come around a little more. Because that woman knows her laws. I mean, you just say a number, law number, 50, and she's like, bada 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 bing, and I'm like, yeah, that probably ain't gonna happen to me. But I started to really kind of go, okay, all right, I'm getting this a little more, and now I love it because time has gone by. I've gone through those stages of seeker, initiate. Now I'm a leader. So it's more applicable for me at this point in my life, and I enjoy it.
What I tell people is that you don't know the laws aren't important until you need them. Yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing with the police. Defund the police until you need a cop. But we won't get into politics because cops also often don't come anywhere. But
yeah.
You need the laws when you need the laws, and if you don't know them, then you don't know how to protect your rights and stuff like that. And people want to believe that we're all here for the best and highest good of all concerned, but there are still people. People are still going to do people things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get a bunch of people together that are of a one mindset, you're going to find that they have a lot of different ideas about that one mindset. You really can't get a whole bunch of any kind of one group together and find consensus. Like,
no.
when I went on the Wife Swap show, one of the girls said, this is just a bunch of white people here. And, I looked at her and she said, well, anytime you just get one group of people, it breeds ignorance. And I was like, oh, Yeah, that's true. You need to mix it up so that you have variety and opposing ways of thinking. And when you get all those mixed together, you need guidance. And people are like, I don't like the laws. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Social contracts are important, though. And if you're outside the social contract, I mean, we just won't let you play. I mean,
Well,
you can.
you need the I was gonna say with the variety of people also you get an echo chamber too if you don't have a variety, if you have all the same, so
All the same people.
I think I love that it says you don't really understand the Wiccan laws until you need them, and you're not gonna need every single one because some of them are a bit, you have to think about when they were written. Some of them are a little outdated. Like I like how they talk about, sorry, text my mom or call my mom and let her know you're on her way. Sorry, we got a broken dryer. We got to do laundry.
Yeah, that's okay. We're just saying she gets decision fatigue, and guidelines really help her. And I find that's true for me too. I just need to know what the right action is so that I can move forward.
Yeah. It helps when, and I remember I had an issue in my coven, and it was a while ago. It was years ago, and I had to make a decision about, is this person, because it was the first time I had to, I hate to say, you don't like kick someone out, but have that talk like, hey, it's not working energetically. But I wanted to make sure, just in case, that I had some Wiccan laws to back me up. And I remember I called Mary and I said, okay, I'm gonna need your help. And so I told her the situation, and she's like, I think number blah blah blah, and also no. And so I looked at him, and it was really nice because it gave me that guidance, and it also backed up. Like if it, just in case this person was like, hey, what you're doing, I could say, well, we did teach you the Wiccan laws, and this is what we go by, and this particular law says I have a right to do this. And it's not like a law like you can take it to court, but it's a spiritual law. And churches need that in their structure.
Ecclesiastic law.
Yeah.
Ecclesiastic law, you can go to court with that, Lola. If that guy was to take you to court, you can say, this is our ecclesiastic law. This is the law that he broke. This is the action that I took. I am well within my rights within ecclesiastic law to choose this action, and the courts will support you.
Oh, well, I'm learning new things. I did not know about ecclesiastic law. I did not know that can hold up.
There's also a word called polity. Polity.
Oh, okay.
And it's not policy, it's polity, and it's also a very similar term. You want to look it up. It's about these kinds of laws, and churches have their own laws because without that, then you're just another social club. Right? Mm-hmm. Like God says, do it this way. Those are your rules, and those are your laws. And in the United States, separation of church and state upholds that you have the right to those laws within your church.
Well, a church can also take or not, I guess it's like refuse service to anyone they really want to. Like, yeah,
well, that's what keeps churches also like lodging agreements. When you come to the church and you're spending the night here, or you've moved in. I've got 2 families that have been living here for 6 months. The moment that I say get out, they have to go. They don't get to file an eviction notice. They don't have renter's right. There's none of that. At a church, you are staying at the pleasure of the pastor, and the moment it is no longer the pleasure of the pastor, you have to go. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You don't have renter's rights when you're lodging in a church. And that is because the sanctity of the church is the priority. Mm-hmm. it violates the sanctity. Like you have somebody living at the church who's causing trouble and making it a hostile environment. Now your members don't want to come over and it destroys your church. People, I mean, not here, but people have tried that in other churches, and it has been successful in many years gone past. That's why they've made laws against that now.
Yeah, and that
churches.
And this is so important for Wiccan clergy to know this, thus us that run covens and our churches, because we don't think about that. We don't think that, hey, remember, Wicca is a religion and we are protected by a lot of rights. And so it's good to know that we have these things in place for us to help us and to protect us.
So, Lola, you did something really powerful there. There's a difference. People don't like the church word. They're like, I don't like the church word. Why do we got to be a church? Why can't we be a coven? Well, the reason that in the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, we use the word church, and Lola is a legal church. My coven is a legal church, because being a legal church gives us those rights.
Yeah.
You just a coven out there circling in your high priestess's backyard. You do not have those rights.
Yeah.
You're just a coven with no protection from the United States. Once you become a legal church through the ATC, or you go through all of the mountains of paperwork to become a legal church in your own right, we do it for you. You don't have to deal with all of that if you go through us. Then you have those rights. Lola has those rights. I have those rights. Not every coven out there has those rights. And one of the things that people really worry about in joining a coven is being abused. So the first thing that you should do when you look at joining a coven is you should find out, are they legal? Look up their paperwork. Are they a church? Are they an educational nonprofit? Like Covenant of the Goddess is not a church. It is an educational nonprofit. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, but know the difference in your group, and look up their paperwork and see their legitimacy, and then you won't have that question down the road, because you will have done the research up front, and you won't have. I've got a lady right now who's contacting me. She's been pagan since she was 13. She is a 3rd degree. She just got put in charge of a coven. She's got 0 paperwork. She's got no paperwork, 2nd or 3rd degree certificate. She doesn't have any legal paperwork for her coven. It's all just been in this chick's backyard, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's got all of this effort and nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
You should look at the legal standpoint, research your teachers. I mean, even so much as to look into their criminal background if you're worried about it. Yep. And after they after they cause you a problem, is too late to worry about it. You should consider those things first.
Yep.
You're joining a group.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up, because people do ask, what is the difference between a coven and a church? And I just tell them, a church we are a recognized church that's protected.
A church is a legal entity that's protected under the federal government, and a coven is a club in somebody's backyard.
Yeah. So when I tell people ask, do you run a coven?
Yes.
I do run a coven, but I'm running a church.
So I tell people that a coven is the priesthood that runs the church. So anybody can come to the church. Way back in the day when I started Wicca, there were no such things as you could just go to a local place and circle with people. They had to meet you. They had to decide if they were going to work with you as an initiate. You did not have the pleasure of just casually attending circles. They did not put on public circles ever, anywhere in the 80s. You didn't get public circles that you could just research on the internet, because we didn't have the internet, for one thing, but because it's just safe. Yeah. And so now you have the privilege of a coven that is being kind enough to host a public gathering for you to partake of.
Yes.
And that's a privilege. That is a privilege.
So
you get to go to a coven or a church's event. That's a privilege. You should give them a donation for their efforts.
Absolutely. So we run ours is that when we do our church events, we are open to the public. We are, we are like, everyone can come, but our coven is, I always say, is the private circle part of our church.
Yeah. It's the priesthood. It's the people that you're dedicating and initiating into clergy status. And we don't invite the public to our coven events, but if we have a coven event, nobody else is going to find out about it. I find it extremely rude to say, oh, we're having this private event. No, you're not welcome to.
Yeah.
It's, if you're having a private event and somebody else finds out about it, suddenly it's not a private event. And everybody that wanted to have a private event is going to look at you for the fact that you told people that it's now a public event. Now we don't get to do our private stuff because we get to entertain this one person who showed up because you said something.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that.
Unpleasant.
Because you're like, oh God. And then you have to change things around, because I always say the coven does the very intimate spiritual energy exchange that is like you said, that's a privilege that you work to get to that. So if you've got someone from, I guess we would call it the outer circle that somehow makes their way to our private, we can't show them the mysteries. We can't give them the key to the mysteries. They have to have that.
You have to change. That's why I said now, instead of doing the really cool thing we had planned, now we have to make up some kind of bull activity to entertain the one person that accidentally got invited and make them feel special and welcome and not like they're crashing our party because it's not their fault that they found out about our private event.
Yep. So that I'm glad to hear that that's not
not standard.
That's happened to us before. So and it's hard because you don't want to be exclusive, but when you have your coven and that smaller, more intimate group of the church, there is kind of we are going to be exclusive because we have a right to vet and say who can and can't, not can and can't, but does your energy work with us on that level? Now,
they don't let you go to medical school if you don't pass the MCATs. They don't let you go to officers training as an enlisted person in military. They don't let you go to the executive washroom when you're a secretary in the corporation. There are privileges that you get that come with rank, and rank is earned because of service. So these private things, it's not being exclusive. It's adequately training your clergy, and you cannot adequately. We have clergy meeting with WISE on Monday, and then we have tradition training with WISE on Monday. And the things I talk about in clergy training, I also touch on in tradition training. But the clergy get a much deeper version that we talk about how it applies to leadership, where when we're in tradition meeting, we talk about, hey, new witch, how does this apply to you? It's a different topic of discussion, and there's different depths. And if we don't ever get to have those depths, then we have a bunch of untrained clergy or no clergy.
Well, and I've seen people on Facebook kind of complain about, I want to join a coven. How do I get in? And some people are like, well, you can just come to our circle whenever you want. And that's awesome. Open circles, open groups like that, clubs. There's nothing wrong with that. But some people were like, well, Lola has a coven, and they send them my way. And I start saying, well, here's what you need to do before we even talk about you joining the coven. And I've had people get a little like, well, this is ridiculous. I should be able to practice the way I want to practice. And I'm like, I'm training clergy. Like, there's a difference there.
You're absolutely welcome to practice the way you want to practice. You're 100% welcome to practice the way you want to practice. If you want to be in our coven, this is how we practice.
Yep.
And I say, people write me all the time, how can I join your coven? Just start coming to stuff.
Yep.
Just start coming to stuff. Because the way that you join a coven is you first go to stuff.
Yep.
And then you wash dishes, you sweep the floor, you serve. And I watch, and the people that show up and are sweeping the floor, I'm like, hey, what's your name? And I want to talk to those people because they have a heart of service. And then the people that show up late and leave early and don't do anything to help are outer court, as you just put it. They're not invited to be in coven. You go to a Wiccan church, or possibly even pagans are the same way. And if you go with the heart of service and you do what you can to serve while you're there, they will see it and they will invite you to do more. And if you do more, they will open the doors and invite you to do more. If you go in with an expectation of, I should be able to do this, I should be able to do that, I'm an individual, I want to keep my autonomy, then you don't really want to join a coven. You just want somebody to validate what you know. And that's what I really find with a lot of people, is that they come to college not to learn what we have to teach, but to get a piece of paper that validates what they know. And that's not what we're doing at the college.
No,
I call
those are title chasers. Is
yes.
what I've said. I've learned that over the years that, oh, that's a title chaser. And you know what? Again, nothing wrong with that. This just may not be your path, you know.
Right.
And yeah,
I've had somebody sit in my hot tub and say, I'm dedicated to your coven. And I go in front of their current teacher. And I'm like, no, you're not.
yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I'm dedicating to your coven. Just as soon as I get my degrees, I'm here because I think that this is really cool and I want to learn this. And I'm like,
well, you don't get
I
to
look
make
at their teacher and I go, obviously, I'm not going to let them come to my coven. Don't worry about it. And because that's the way that you set up priestesses to fight with each other, and they feel, oh, my student thinks this teacher is better than me because all they see is the glitter, and that person's not asking them to face their shadow like I am. Yep. And some people just want to collect accolades. They want to collect accolades, but that's people who haven't figured out what we're doing yet. They're still really young, and they don't understand that is not what it's about.
Well, and it's been such a process for me because it's made me, I've learned how to vet prospective members better from the mistakes that I've made, where I didn't want to hurt people's feelings, and I was like, yes, be in our coven, you know, and
it'll be fun.
Yeah, and now I'm like, oh, and I tell them, you know, show up to stuff. I learned that from the school. Show up to our stuff. We've got online stuff. We've got in-person stuff. Get to know us. Hang out with us. We want to see you. We want to see how your energy is. That is where we start. And then we take it from there. And there's no like blanket statement that says, well, you must come to this many events and do it's different with different people. And if someone is really interested in it, if someone is really interested in it, they'll keep showing up, and they'll interact, they'll do the work, they'll be open-minded to learn things. They'll, you know, and you can tell those people. And I've had people that are like, I really want to join your coven. And I'm like, well, here's our online stuff. We've got an open Sabbath coming up. Check us out. And I never hear from them again. And then I might hear from them like 6 months later, and they're like, I really wanted to join your coven, but I feel like we might have miscommunicated. Like, how do I get in? And I'm like, again, show up to our stuff. Show up.
Can you come to something?
Yeah.
Come to
Yeah.
There's no point in being a part of a coven if you don't get to show up. Guys,
Yeah.
being a part of a coven is being the people who help put on the events. It is not a club for you to get to the good parties, although, I mean, that is a perk of it. But it's about showing up and doing the work. And then through doing the work, you learn stuff. How much did you learn working with me, Lola? I mean, we've done so much together. And Lola first started producing candid chats with Bella. You learned so much, and we had so much fun when you were like, let me talk every once in a while, because she does the music and I do the magical side of it. And then it worked really good. Then we formed a partnership, and now we're doing this. You start working with somebody and you do a good job, and they give you opportunities to do more. So that's another thing that you should look for in a teacher. What kind of opportunities can they provide for you? Do they run festivals? Or is the opportunity that they're going to give you to be in a, to do public rituals? Do they host pagan pride days? What do they do? Because that's really important too. If you want to be serving at festival, then you need somebody running festivals to be your teacher. If you want to be an educator in Wicca, then you need to find somebody who is teaching classes, who will give you opportunities to teach their classes. That's how it works. And then you get more. And it's all revolves around the Ordains, because the Ordains gives us these steps that make sense. And once you understand the Ordains, then you don't have to go, I don't understand why we're doing it this way. It's real obvious that we're doing it this way. It's in the Ordains.
Yeah. Do you, so there's the Wiccan law. Do you associate the Wiccan Reed with any of this? Because I get asked this a lot, like, what is the difference between your Ordains / Wiccan law and Wiccan Reed?
Well, so I think the Wiccan Reed is certainly a guideline of mysteries and magics. If you have ever read the Long Wiccan Reed, it tells you to do air in the north, Lola.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but if you don't read it correctly, you'll miss the points. In it. So it is a limerick that holds many, many mysteries, where I think the Ordains kind of spells stuff out for those of us who aren't so good at reading between the lines.
Yeah.
And do they teach the same things? Sometimes they do teach the same things, but
it's poetic. It's a beautiful poem. It's done in a sing-song kind of way, but we do get the main one that you'll hear us Wiccans say, and any harm none, do what ye will. And that's a really good way, because that's what it comes down to. It ends with that, like, here's what this,
Lola just put out the advanced read. So let's talk about that, Lola.
Yeah.
So in public Wicca, it's do what thou wilt and harm none.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's public Wicca. That's not real Wicca. The real one goes so far as to do what thou wilt be the whole of the law.
Yeah.
And that's for Crowley. But the reason that it's do what thou wilt be the whole of the law is because you know the consequences of what your actions are. You are going to receive this back. If you're willing to pay the price, then do whatever it is you're going to do, because the Lords of Karma going to be there for you.
Yeah.
So we don't really believe harm none. Harm none is writing with the fat pencil. You can't walk outside and not harm anything. You're breathing organisms in the air. You're stepping on the grass. You cannot harm none. You eat. You consume. You can't harm none. It's not livable.
Well, and we inadvertently hurt people's feelings. We are always energy that we are putting out. We don't have control of it completely, how it's going to affect someone. And so if someone's like, don't intentionally hurt someone, and it's like, okay, I can do the best I can to not intentionally hurt someone, but as where I try to come from a very loving, compassionate place, and I have hurt lots of people's feelings, and I don't get hung up on that anymore. I used to, but now I'm like, sometimes they got to take accountability why it's affecting them that way, and I can't be held responsible for that. So that's why End Harm None has never, people focus on that, and it's like, yeah, that's a tall order.
Yeah, you can't do it. Well, we talked about this in tradition class today. I talked about fear and how you just can't be a witch if you're scared, because you're undoing your magic all the time. Every time you interject fear, it unravels everything that you're trying to accomplish. And so we talked about how you have to keep your head in that positive place, and you can't possibly be responsible for hurting everybody else's feelings, because you don't like it. You can only do the best you can. But
Yep.
also when they hurt your feelings, it is not their fault. See, that's the thing. If you can't be responsible for how other people take you, they can't be responsible how you take them.
Yep.
So you can't blame other people when you choose anger or hurt, because that's your choice. You are in choice. Somebody calls me a name, I'm like, maybe so, maybe not. Or I can go, how dare you call me a name?
Yeah.
I'm giving them all sorts of power when I have that kind of an emotional reaction to them. So the Ordains help us stay in that space of self-reflection. This is the things that I can be responsible for. I cannot be responsible for these things.
Yep.
And where is right action? People argue, should you give money to churches? Well, in the Ordains, it says, do not charge for use of magic, because that will tempt you to use magic for things you shouldn't use magic for, such as make this guy fall in love with me.
Yep.
Here's $100. I'm not going to do that for $100. Well, how about $1,000? How about $10,000? Okay.
Yeah.
$10,000. I can send my kid to college. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's got a price.
Oh yeah.
But you can charge for your time. So I read cards for a living. I am not charging you for a reading. I am charging you for 10 minutes of my time. And what we do with that 10 minutes is I'm going to do a reading for you. But I'm not going to have the time to do a reading for somebody if they don't pay me for that time, because I'm going to need to spend that 10 minutes making money somewhere else if I can't make money like this.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because I apologize. I'm getting over sinus infection, so I'm coughing and snotting over here.
I'm hoping people are just glad we're here.
I know. And this eye's watering. What does that mean, Bella? This eye just started watering. It's my
we're talking about something from your past that you still have feelings about.
Well, this is a topic that I've questioned a lot of things about the decisions I've made with people in my coven and people in my spiritual life. So it's answering a lot of it's validating that I made the right decisions.
So you guys, when you have lung issues and you're coughing is an expression of fear. Sneezing is an expression of it's a shield. Sneezing is a reaction to hate. Sneezing pushes the hate away from you. Coughing is fear. And when you start tearing, if you tear from the inside, that's crying. If you tear from the outside, that's laughing. Okay, so pay attention to where the tears are coming from, because if it's coming from the outside, you're receiving a release.
Interesting.
Of validation. Yeah, all of the things that happen to you, I pay attention to every nuance. I might not tell you, but I'm recording it. Oh, Lola had a reaction to that. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why I ask you, because I know that you're paying attention, and I'm like, what does that mean?
when you are a high priestess, you have to make a lot of decisions that impact people. And I come from my husband is so sweet. He's like, I love you so much because I have watched you for 20 years agonize over every decision that might harm somebody. You
Yeah.
will sit and agonize, and I will call Brenna, and I'll talk to Dusty, and I'll call and talk to you, and I'll be like, okay, what is the right thing to do here until I get it out? Somebody
Yeah.
wants to know, what is clearing your throat? That is when you have something stuck that you don't want to say or haven't figured out the right way to say it yet, or maybe you're concerned about how it's going to come across. But that is you questioning your words.
Communication. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted real quick to bring up before we start looking at the card. I wanted to say I'm glad you brought up the don't charge, that Wiccan law that says don't charge for your
for money, for
your
magic.
craft. And I like that we brought that up, because that was a big one, because we do charge for tarot readings or healings or whatever, and it's an energy exchange. You have to have some sort of energy exchange, and we live in a place where time is money. It just is. And but that was a hard one for me to come to understand, because I was like, oh, we shouldn't be charging for our tarot readings. But I'm glad you touched upon that, because I've learned that too, that it's about our time. And I'm really glad you
says
brought
in
that
the
up.
Ordains, it says if anyone truly labors, they deserve to be compensated for their time. It also says that whenever you reap of your harvest, set aside 10% for your church.
Yep.
Or for wherever you get spiritually fed. And people are like, oh, don't bring up tithing. But the principle of tithing, that's a spiritual principle that all religions teach. And I believe that if all of them teach it, then it's spiritual truth.
Yeah.
And it's in the Ordains. And I have found that when I give 10% of what I make to the church, I make more money. And when I don't, I make less. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was raised Mormon, and that was beat into my head. So maybe it's just part of my reality, but I absolutely believe in the law of tithing. And it made me happy to see that it was in the Ordains, because I think it's a universal truth. When you invite the goddess to eat off your table, she invites you to eat off of her table, and her table is way bigger than mine. So,
Well, it's that energy. It's not the financial, it's the intent and the energy you put in there. And
giving.
as we all know, when you put that energy into your spiritual churches, or the place you get spiritually fed, you're going to get fed back. You're going to get energy back. It doesn't mean that you're going to get, tit for tat, money for money, but you're going to, an opportunity will come for
It's the
you.
law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
You get out of it what you put into it. And when you give, you receive.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite law, real quick? Do you have one that you can think of?
My favorite is Law 68, because when Pete and I were getting to know each other, I went, whoa, I think that's Law 68. And he was like, wait a minute, you know the laws by heart? And I was like, pretty close. Let me look it up. Yeah, it's 68. And he liked that, because he was a legal, and I'm not really good with secular law, because they change all the time. But Wiccan law, I got that one.
Yeah.
So,
and what is Law 68? I'm actually pulling it up right now, because I'm curious. Is it in the Seekers or the Initiates? It's in the Initiates, I believe. Yeah. I've got my Wiccan laws right here. I do not know them by heart, because I am not.
What's number 68 say?
It says, let's see. Oh, it's leadership. Which makes sense. It's under leadership. It says, I'm almost there. Okay, Law 68. Anyone of the circle who is of sufficient rank and wishes to form a new circle shall tell the high priestess and the elders of their intentions. Members of the old circle may join the new circle when it is formed, but if they do so, they must leave the other circle unless otherwise instructed. For it is the old law that each Wiccan may join the circle of their choice, yet their energy should not be divided between two or more temples. So you can don't be in two covens at the same time.
Two covens at the same time.
And also you can hive off and form another coven, and people can come with you but can't stay in
if
the
you
old coven.
tell them, but you gotta tell them. You can't go, I'm gonna go over here and start my own coven behind your back, and I'm gonna steal all your people and talk bad about you behind your back, and they're still gonna go to your coven too, and we're not gonna tell anybody, which is what was happening at the time. When and I tell people, if you go to a different coven, you need to avoid this coven. Don't do two covens. And it's just a social club to them, and they want to be in both. You can't be in both when you're in coven, which is the difference between coven and church. A coven is when you are dedicated to that priest or priestess, and that priest or priestess's events take priority. And if you're going to go to another event with another leader, you have to tell your initiatory priest or priestess and get permission. And if they say no, you don't go.
And is that that's to protect the teachings that you are giving your students?
There may be a variety. There could be any number of reasons why someone would say you can't go do this, and it should be a good reason. And if they're a good teacher, they'll go, this is the reason why, and it won't just be because I said so, because that's a bullshit reason. But you either trust your leaders or you don't. You either are going to let them lead you into places where you've never been before, or you're just creating lip service and you're going to one day be invited to leave. And you can remember that Bella said that. And you will be deserving of that, because if I'm putting a bunch of energy into my people, I expect energy out. If they're going out and giving their energy to other people and not me, we have a problem. Because now I don't want to put so much energy into you, because now I understand that it's not going to be reciprocated and I'm wasting my time.
It's like I said, it's title chasers. It's like, are you here to learn, or are you here to collect a certificate?
Right. And, where we can take a few people a really long way, but we can't take a whole bunch of people a really long way. We can take a whole bunch of people a little bit, and we can take a few people really far. But those few people earn it through listening and loyalty and doing the things that they're told to do. I can tell you right now, Brenna Grace is a third degree in my tradition. And there have been times that I've told her no, and she has taken that like a man or like a witch and not done it, because she's been also given, this is the reason why. And it's with caring and not with controlling that the no's are given out. I don't ever say no. I tell the rules in our group is you say yes unless you have a really good reason, and then you give them that reason. There are no because I said so no's. No. And there are no knee-jerk no's. You say yes as a knee-jerk.
Yeah. Unless it's like you said, there's a reason. I know there's been people who have studied under you and have gone to you or your teachers that they've maybe studied under and said, I want to attend Lola's this or that. And because you guys know me and know that I'm not going to lead them astray, you're like, yeah, go right ahead. There's groups that are like, yeah, I know these people. I trust them,
well, you're ATC. I mean, your family.
Yeah.
I don't. Of course, you can go to Lola's stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're ATC, and I trust you. I don't empower people to leadership that I don't trust.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, we've had situations where people have said, can I do this for Lola? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And I say, why? Because you're not going to be able to keep it up. And that's a commitment that you have to stick to.
Yep.
I didn't consider that. Or, some other thing down the road. And I tell them this.
It's respecting other leaders too, because I've had people that study under certain teachers in the wise tradition, and they'll say, I'd like to help you with this. And I'm like, you need to ask your teacher. I'm not, yeah, you need to ask your teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's respecting the traditions, that's respecting the teachings. And I never get offended if someone says, yeah, Bella said I can't do this. I'm like, but they'll tell me why. I'll go, well, this is why. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I sent you to her, because I knew that's what she was going to say. So
we've known each other for a very long time.
Yeah, it's all good.
Relationship, a lot of mutual love and respect.
Shall we talk about the card? This is an adorable card.
I think it's a very cute card.
Yeah.
The kid in the gray sweatshirt is holding a crystal ball. He sure is.
Yeah, I love the teaching aspect of this.
If I were to get this in a deck, I would think that there was something that I was learning about the Ordains that I hadn't considered yet, and I would take this as the cue to go look up and skim through and see what I have missed.
Yeah. Yeah, this just reminds me right now at this time that, well, first of all, I got to start getting the second set of laws ready for looking at when we start elevating people. And I need to refresh my brain and my knowledge of it, because I don't like to have people in my coven like, you need to study these. I've studied them, but I studied them over and over and over and over. Just because I'm not in the school anymore doesn't mean that this doesn't come up. And I'm going to be right there with my students going, oh yeah, this is a good one. Oh yeah, I like this one. And so it's reminding me, get familiar with them again, because it's been a while since I've had to have some of my students take a look at these laws.
Yeah. And, Brenna said that she would take it as you should look in the laws for the answer. Yeah, I would take it to that as that too, is that I need to consult the Ordains for the answer. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I like that, because it is going to guide you. The wording is different. Now, wasn't there the Ordains were kind of written all like, thou not doeth what if or whatever, and then wasn't it Lady Galadriel that kind of reworded them to make them a little bit easier?
So there's old law, there's dragon law, there's old law was 168 laws, and then dragon law is very archaic in its language, and so she took 3 separate laws, sets of laws, and consolidated them into the new Wiccan Book of the Law.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really important, because some of those laws were stupid. Don't wear a sword in public unless you have adequate rank. And what they were talking about is military rank. Who would be wearing a sword in public? But now that we have cosplay and all of that kind of stuff, it's like, well, maybe that applies now. But I look at those kinds of things. So like, I had people get swords as presents, and I'm like, you can't have that until your 2nd degree, because having a sword means that you run a group. You can't own a sword if you don't run a group. It is the group mind. I have watched people get a sword and then leave training, and I don't want that for my people, so I don't let them have their swords until their 2nd degrees. If they get one given to them, or if they, whatever, my students know that. Yeah. But that's in Wiccan law.
Yeah.
And it was an archaically worded thing. And then Lady Galadriel made it make sense. You know, she prayed about it and consulted a bunch of elders and made it to where, I mean, there's only 88 of them now. They make sense. You can understand them. It's not tedious to read it. It doesn't use language that doesn't make any sense anymore. And I like that. The ATC has their own Ordains. And, and I use the new book of the Wiccan Law because I believe that we should participate in the laws that everybody in Wicca participates in instead of having our own.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you want to play in community, you should follow the rules that community follows.
Yeah. I like that. That's awesome. Does anyone else, I don't know who has...
If you pulled this card in a deck, what would you think it meant to you?
Also, if you guys would like to learn more about these Ordains and be interactive, we do our Children of the Crossroads. ATC does the Wednesday discussions. Look at that. Look at our producer putting stuff up.
We have such a fantastic producer, LaVeau. She's so awesome.
I don't know if she was planning to put that up or if she just did that real quick as I started talking, because that was impressive.
It's got them on tap. So let's throw out the things if you want to get more Bella in your life. Let's throw out the things. So you got Spring Mysteries coming up. Mm-hmm. Register for Spring Mysteries by the end of February and save $50 on your ticket. Most registrations we've ever had, Lola.
Yeah, I heard.
Killing it at Spring Mysteries. I really hope that you can make it because it's so awesome. If you want to go to college and learn magic and witchcraft, WiccanSeminary.edu is the school for you. Wiccan Seminary is the school that I built, and it is real scholastic degrees. We talk about degrees, first, second, and third degree. That's clergy degrees. In Wiccan Seminary, you earn associates, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees, which are scholastic degrees, not the same as clergy degrees, but they work hand in hand. If you have a degree from Wiccan Seminary, it's a lot easier to get into a coven and get initiated.
Yeah. We are fun, Brenda says. Come join us. We're fun.
We are fun. You can learn more about us at atcwiccan.org. And Miss Lola is in Spokane, Washington. So if you're looking for people to play with in Spokane, she is a heck of a lot of fun, let me tell you. We are mirth and reverence. Mirth and reverence. I have recently been called slightly irreverent, and I'm owning that. I like that. Slightly irreverent. That's fantastic. So Belladonna LaVeau, you can find me on Facebook. I'm very easy to look up. She's put my email address in here, but if you Google Belladonna LaVeau, you're going to find like 50 pages of Google entries on me. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. Lola is equally out there. If you look up Lola Stardust, you will find her. Yeah. So we are not hard to get in touch with. And we're real people. We'll talk to you.
Yeah.
We're real people.
We like talking. We like talking witchy stuff. We like sharing information, learning new things. Yeah. So, and I hope to see some of you on Wednesdays in our Discord channel. And then if you go to that Discord channel, you will also see we have some other awesome things that we do daily in Discord, and we do a lot. We have a good online stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of great stuff. So we work tirelessly to bring you witchcraft, and we hope that you enjoy the services that we offer and that we get to see some more of you. I have to go teach a class at Wiccan Seminary, but I got to bug out. We got 2 minutes before my class starts, but Merry Heart, and may all of the blessings be yours.
Let me tell you real quick. Next week we'll be talking about the shadow.
Ooh, that'll be a good one. The shadow knows.
I'm so glad to see everyone, and I'm glad me and Bella got back to healthy and somewhat functioning. So
good to see you. We'll see you again next week live at 5. Y'all have a magical day.
Bye, everyone. Blessed be.
Blessed be.